Lick your fingers. 3 words. The mess hall freezes. 47 Japanese women, hands still greasy from rice and vegetables, stop breathing. Noriko, 24, signals operator from Nagasaki, feels her stomach drop. This is it. This is what the training films promised. The American guard is tall, blond. His uniform is clean. His eyes are fixed on her hands. She knows what comes next. 1,200 Japanese women in American custody by spring 1945, only 47 in this camp. And right now, every single one is waiting for the assault to begin. America jin wa watashi tachi no karada wo tsukao, sore ga senryu no imi da. The Americans will use our bodies. That's what occupation means. That's what Lieutenant Fujimura told them before capture. That's what the films showed, women screaming, soldiers laughing, dignity stripped away frame by frame. Noriko watched those films 6 times. She memorized every scene. She knows exactly how this ends. The guard takes a step forward. His boots thud against concrete. The sound echoes. Beside her, Tomoko, 19, field nurse captured on Saipan, starts shaking. Her fingers are still raised, frozen midair, grease glistening under the bare bulb. She's the youngest in the barracks, 19 years old, walked 40 miles through jungle before surrender. Now she can't move. The food was strange. Meat, vegetables, white rice. Actual white rice, not the moldy rations they'd eaten for months. It smelled like home, tasted better than anything Noriko had eaten since 1943. But now she understands. The food was bait. Steam still rises from the metal trays. The room smells like grease and fear, that specific metallic tang that coats your tongue when your body prepares to fight or die. Noriko's throat tightens. The guard stops, right in front of her, close enough that she can smell soap on his skin. Clean soap, American soap. He points, not at her face, not at her body, at her hands. Lick, he says again. Slower this time, like she's stupid. Corporal Mitchell Hayes, 26, mess supervisor from Oklahoma, doesn't understand why these women look terrified. He said the same thing to every POW group, Germans, Italians, everyone, waste nothing. Rations are limited. Lick your fingers, clean your tray, standard protocol. But he doesn't speak Japanese, and the interpreter hasn't arrived yet. So he just points again, waiting. Noriko's fingers hover near her mouth. Grease drips onto the tray. The door behind Hayes creaks open. Someone else is coming. The door swings wide. A Japanese-American man steps through. Nisei, 2nd generation. His uniform says U.S. Army. His face says something else. Takeshi Yamamoto, 31, born in Sacramento. Parents currently in Manzanar internment camp. He translates for the military because the alternative was joining them behind barbed wire. He sees the women's faces, sees the terror, sees Hayes pointing at their hands, and understands everything in 2 seconds. Kare wa anata ni kizu wo tsukeo shite iru no dewanai. He's not trying to hurt you. His voice cuts through the silence, sharp, urgent. The women don't believe him. He can see it in their eyes. Why would they? He's wearing the enemy's uniform. But Takeshi keeps talking. Faster now. It's a rule. American mess halls. You finish your food. You clean your hands. No waste. That's all he wants. Noriko stares at him. Her brain won't process the words. They don't match the training. They don't match the films. They don't match anything she was taught to expect. Hayes watches the exchange, confused. He just wanted them to finish eating. Standard protocol. Every POW camp runs the same way. 2% food waste maximum. Command tracks it daily. Japanese POW camps wasted 40% of rations. Inedible, rotted, given as punishment. Here, food is a resource, not a weapon. Neizukare wa watashi tachi wo mite iru no. Why is he watching us? Tomoko's voice, small, shaking. She's looking at Hayes, at his eyes. They're still fixed on the trays. Takeshi hesitates. The truth is simple, boring, bureaucratic. He counts the food, reports how much is eaten. It's his job. But that's not what the women hear. They hear, he watches, he counts, he reports. That sounds like surveillance. That sounds like assessment. That sounds like selection. Noriko's hands are trembling now. The grease has gone cold. It feels like evidence, proof of something she can't name. Across the room, Chieko, 27, former schoolteacher from Hiroshima, slowly raises her fingers to her mouth. She licks, once, twice. Her eyes never leave Hayes. He nods, writes something on his clipboard. Chieko doesn't know if she just passed a test or signed her own death warrant. Takeshi watches her face, sees the calculation, the survival math, and realizes something that will haunt him for years. He can translate the words, but he can't translate the fear. Hayes clicks his pen, turns toward the next row of women. Noriko's fingers are still hovering. She hasn't moved. Noriko remembers the projector, the clicking sound it made, the white sheet hung between bamboo poles. March 1944, training camp outside Osaka, 40 women in Signals Corps, learning to fear capture more than death. Kore ga anata wo matsumono da. This is what awaits you, Lieutenant Fujimura's voice, calm, educational, like she was teaching mathematics instead of manufacturing nightmares. The film showed American soldiers, laughing, drunk, and women, Chinese women, the narrator said, being dragged into buildings. The camera cut away before the worst, but the sounds continued, screaming, then silence. 500 Japanese women killed themselves rather than face capture between 1944 and 1945. Okinawa alone, 200 in 1 week. Cliffs, grenades, knives, anything to avoid what the films promised. Noriko almost joined them. When the American patrol found her unit, she had a grenade in her hand. Pin half pulled. 3 seconds from ending it. But she hesitated. 1 second of doubt. And now she's here, fingers covered in grease, waiting for the films to become real. The mess hall feels smaller. The walls are pressing in. Tomoko is crying quietly, tears sliding down her cheeks while she tries to stay invisible. Chieko's jaw is locked so tight, Noriko can see the muscles straining. Hayes moves to the next table. Clipboard ready. Pen clicking. Kare wa watashi tachi no namae wo kaite iru no ka? Sentaku shite iru no ka? Is he writing our names, selecting us? Ayumi, 22, factory worker from Kobe, whispers the question. No one answers because no one knows. The food is gone. The trays are empty. But the women can't leave. Hayes hasn't dismissed them, so they sit, waiting, watching him watch them. Takeshi moves between tables, explaining over and over. It's just food waste protocol, nothing more. But his words bounce off like rain on stone. 3 months of propaganda can't be erased in 3 minutes. Noriko finally moves, slowly, mechanically. She raises her fingers, opens her mouth. The grease tastes like salt and animal fat, like survival, like surrender. She licks once, twice, 3 times, until her fingers are clean. Hayes nods, makes a mark. Noriko doesn't feel relief. She feels something worse, confusion. The assault hasn't started. The violence hasn't come. The films were specific, detailed, inevitable. So why is she still sitting here, unkicked, untouched, untaken? That's when the real terror begins. Because if the films were wrong about this, what else were they wrong about? Hayes finishes his round, 47 marks on his clipboard, 47 trays cleared. He doesn't know he's being studied. Every woman in that room is tracking his movements, when he looks up, when he looks down, when his hand moves toward his belt. The belt, that's where the weapon would be. But Hayes isn't carrying a sidearm. Mess supervisors don't. He has a clipboard, a pen, and a protein bar in his pocket for later. Kare no te wo mite, kare wa watashi tachi ni nani wo suru tsumori nano? Watch his hands. What is he going to do to us? Etsuko, 34, senior nurse, oldest in the group, mutters the command. She was trained for this. Combat medicine, triage, reading bodies for damage. Now she's reading Hayes for intent. His body language is wrong, relaxed, shoulders loose, eyes unfocused, the look of a man thinking about his shift ending, not a predator sizing up prey. U.S. POW camps tracked everything. Food consumption, 3,200 calories per day, allocated per prisoner. Medical checks, weekly. Weight monitoring, bi-weekly. Every number reported, every calorie counted. Japanese soldiers' ration in 1944, when available, was 1,800 calories, often less. These women were eating better as prisoners than they ever did as soldiers. But that calculation hasn't landed yet. Right now all they see is a man with a clipboard, watching, writing. Tomoko's fingers are clean now. She licked them while crying, salt from tears mixed with salt from grease. She's staring at her empty tray like it contains answers. Hayes walks toward the door. His boots echo. Each step sounds like countdown. Then he stops, turns. "Good job," he says. In English, 2 words the women don't understand. Takeshi translates, "Yoku dekimashita." The words hang in the air. Praise, actual praise, for eating. Etsuko's medical training kicks in. She's seen this before. In psychiatric wards, patients rewarded for basic functions, eating, bathing, compliance. Is that what this is? Conditioning? But Hayes is already gone. Door closed, footsteps fading. The women sit in silence, trays empty, fingers clean, and a question nobody can answer. What happens now? In Japanese camps, empty trays meant permission to leave. Then work detail, 16 hours, no breaks, guards with bayonets. Here, nothing happens. The door stays open, no guards rush in. Noriko stands, her legs shake. She takes 1 step toward the door, no one stops her. That's when Chieko says it, the thing everyone is thinking. Maybe everything they told us was wrong. Setsuko won't lick. 20 years old, Imperial Army radio operator, captured because her unit ran out of ammunition, not courage. She sat through the entire meal with her fingers curled into fists. The grease dried on her skin, hardened, evidence of resistance. Shitagao koto wakafuku wo imisuru. To obey is to surrender. That's what she whispers when Noriko asks her why. Her jaw is set. Her eyes are fixed on the door where Hayes left. 97% of Japanese soldiers chose death over surrender in early Pacific campaigns. Bushido Code, Imperial Honor. The propaganda wasn't just words, it was marrow-deep programming. Setsuko absorbed every lesson. Tomoko tries to reason with her. He didn't hurt us. He just wanted us to finish. That's what they want you to think. Setsuko's voice is flat, cold. The voice of someone who's already decided what reality looks like and won't let evidence change it. The mess hall empties. Other women drift toward the barracks. Noriko stays. So does Takeshi. He's supposed to report to command, but something holds him here. "You don't have to lick," he says in Japanese. "It's not required, just encouraged." Setsuko stares at him, at the uniform, at the face that looks like hers but serves the enemy. "Anata wa watashi tachi no hao wo uragirimashita." You betrayed our side. Takeshi doesn't flinch. He's heard it before, from his own parents, in letters smuggled from Manzanar, from Japanese POWs who see him as proof that blood means nothing. "I'm trying to help you understand." "I understand perfectly." Setsuko stands. Her fingers are still greasy. She walks to the corner of the mess hall, wipes her hands on the wooden wall, deliberately, slowly, staring at Takeshi the entire time. Then she leaves. Noriko watches her go, feels something shift in her chest. Admiration, fear, confusion. "Will she be punished?" she asks Takeshi. He shakes his head up. For what? Wiping her hands on a wall? That's the part that doesn't compute. In the Imperial Army, defiance meant beatings, public humiliation, sometimes worse. Here, defiance means nothing. A woman refuses to lick her fingers, and the world continues spinning. That's more terrifying than punishment, because if there are no consequences for resistance, then what is this place? Noriko looks at her own hands. Clean now. Licked clean. She's not sure if she made the right choice. That night, Setsuko sleeps with her back to the room, and her fingers still unwashed. Morning. A new poster on the mess hall wall. Cartoon American soldier, smiling, holding an empty plate, tongue out, licking. 2 words in English, Clean Plate Club. Below it, Japanese translation in handwritten characters. Takeshi's handwriting. He was up until midnight making it. Noriko stares at the poster for a full minute. Her brain refuses to process what she's seeing. Kore wa judan nanoka? Is this a joke? In the Imperial Army, mess hall signs meant one thing: regulations, violations, consequences. Clean your plate would be followed by or face discipline. This poster has a cartoon, a smiling cartoon. Miyuki, 23, former factory clerk from Yokohama, starts laughing. Just once. A sharp sound quickly cut off. She covers her mouth like she's committed a crime, but nobody punishes her. U.S. military food waste reduction campaigns saved 2.1 million tons annually by 1944. Enough to feed 8 million soldiers for a month. The program was called Food Fights for Freedom. They made it cheerful. Tomoko approaches the poster, touches it. The paper is thin, standard military issue, nothing special. They're not mocking us, Takeshi says. He's standing in the corner watching the women's reactions. This is how they communicate. Everything is positive. Setsuko snorts. She hasn't entered the mess hall yet. She's standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Positive, she repeats, like the word is poison. Etsuko, the senior nurse, examines the poster with clinical detachment. Propaganda, she concludes. Different flavor, same purpose. That lands. The women understand propaganda. They lived inside it for years. Japanese, American, same machinery, different messages. But there's a crack now, a small one, because Japanese propaganda never used cartoons, never used smiles, never used encouragement, fear, duty, death before dishonor. Those were the tools. Here they're being asked to clean their plates with a wink. Moshikore ga sento hohu nara, karera wa nani to tatakata iruno. If this is their method of fighting, what are they fighting for? Noriko asks the question out loud. Nobody answers. The breakfast line forms: rice, eggs, actual eggs, fresh, not powdered, coffee. That smells real. Noriko takes her tray, sits, eats. When she finishes, her fingers are greasy again. She looks at the poster, at the cartoon soldier's ridiculous smile. Then she licks her fingers. Not because she's ordered to, not because she's afraid, because something inside her is starting to wonder. And wondering feels like the first step toward something she can't name yet. Day 5. No assaults, no selections, no punishments. Noriko tracks the pattern. Meals at 700, 1200, 1800. Same food. Same guard, Hayes with his clipboard. Same routine. She's waiting for the pattern to break, for the mask to slip. Kamen wa itsu ochiru no? When does the mask fall? She whispers it to Chieko during dinner. Chieko doesn't answer. She's too busy eating her third meal in a row without shaking. 14 days, that's the average. 14 days for POWs to show repatriation anxiety, fear of returning home because captivity was better than service. These women are on day 5. Already small things are changing. Tomoko asked for seconds yesterday. Wasn't punished. Miyuki left the mess hall before official dismissal. Nobody noticed. Each tiny act of freedom is a test. Each past test cracks the propaganda further. Setsuko still won't lick. She's eaten every meal, but her fingers stay greasy until she reaches the barracks and washes them in the basin. Alone. In silence. Her resistance is costing her. The other women have started avoiding her. But Noriko watches and wonders. Is Setsuko the only sane one? Hayes enters for the evening round. Clipboard ready. Pen clicking. Kare wa watashi tachi wo sentaku shite iru. That's what Setsuko believes. He's selecting us. For what, she never says. The films never specified the timeline. just the inevitability. But day 5 becomes day 6. Day 6 becomes 7. And nothing happens. Etsuko, the senior nurse, makes an observation during washing hour. If they wanted to hurt us, they would have done it already. Waiting serves no purpose. Medical logic. Cold, clean, correct. But logic doesn't erase the films. Logic doesn't unwatch the screaming women on that white sheet in Osaka. Noriko lies awake that night, staring at the wooden ceiling. If the assault isn't coming, if the films were lies, then what did those 500 women die for? What did her hand on that grenade pin almost accomplish? Moshi subete ga uso datanara. If it was all lies. She doesn't finish the sentence. Can't finish it. Because finishing it means admitting something too large to hold, that her country fed her nightmares disguised as training, that her leaders chose her fear over her life, that the cliff jumpers on Okinawa died for fiction. She pulls her blanket tighter, American-issue wool, warmer than anything she had in the Imperial Army, and doesn't sleep for hours. Fumi gets a letter, Red Cross delivery, Japanese postmark. She opens it at the mess hall table, hands shaking. The other women pretend not to watch, but everyone watches. Kayat kuruna, Keshite. Don't come back, ever. 5 words, from her husband's mother, written on rice paper in formal script, the kind used for official documents, or disownment. Fumi, 33, former officer's wife, married at 19, reads the letter 3 times. Her face doesn't change. She's been trained for this too. Officers' wives don't show emotion in public. But her hands keep shaking. Post-war Japan's shame culture was precise, surgical. Women who survived capture were damaged goods, whether assault occurred or not. The fact of capture was the violation. 60% of repatriated female POWs faced family rejection. Divorce rate, 85%. Survival was the crime. Fumi folds the letter, puts it in her pocket, finishes her rice. Then she does something that stops every woman in the room. She asks for seconds. Mato kudasai. The server, a private from Texas who doesn't understand Japanese, looks at her empty tray, nods, and refills it. Fumi eats slowly, deliberately, every grain. When she finishes, she raises her fingers to her mouth. The other women hold their breath. She licks, once, twice, slowly, thoroughly, making eye contact with no one and everyone. Then she stands, walks to the door, pauses. Karera wa watashi ni iga nai to ita, dakara koko ga watashi no ida. They told me I have no home, so this is my home now. She leaves. Noriko feels something crack in her chest. Not sadness exactly, something bigger. Fumi has nowhere to go. Japan rejected her before she even arrived. But here, in this camp, with these guards, with this food, she's eating better than she has in years, being treated better than her own army treated her. The math is ugly, but it's real. Hayes enters for his evening count. Clipboard ready. He doesn't know what just happened. Doesn't know the letter exists. Doesn't know he's running a camp that some prisoners would choose over home. He just counts trays, makes marks, nods at the clean plates. Yoku dekimashita. Good job. The words feel different now, not conditioning, not surveillance. Maybe, just routine. Tomoko looks at her own fingers, still greasy. She hasn't licked yet today. She thinks about Fumi, about the letter, about what home means when home doesn't want you. Then she licks, and it doesn't feel like surrender anymore. Chieko tells Noriko the truth. Night. Barracks. Everyone else asleep. Watashi no imoto wa Okinawa ni imashita. My sister was on Okinawa. Noriko doesn't respond, just listens. She was a nurse, like me. When the Americans came, she had 2 choices, surrender or die. Chieko's voice is flat, the flatness of someone who's told this story to herself 1,000 times. She chose the cliff. Okinawa civilian suicides, 10,000 in the final weeks, women, children, elderly, entire families walking into the sea or jumping from heights. The Imperial Army encouraged it, distributed grenades, called it honor. Watashi wa okubyu data, imuto wa yukan data. I was a coward, my sister was brave. Noriko shakes her head. You're alive. Is that better? The question hangs in the dark, unanswerable. Chieko's hands are trembling. She's been holding this since capture, the weight of being the one who hesitated. Every time I lick my fingers, she says, I think she died so she wouldn't have to do this. And I'm doing it 3 times a day. Noriko reaches out, takes Chieko's hand, holds it. Anata no imuto wa uso no tame ni shinda. Anata wa shinjitsu no tame ni ikite iru. Your sister died for lies. You're living for truth. The words come out before Noriko knows what she's saying, but once they're out, she can't take them back. Chieko stares at her, eyes wet, something shifting behind them. What if I can't live with that? What if knowing the truth is worse? Noriko doesn't have an answer. There isn't one. Some burdens don't get lighter. They just become familiar. Setsuko is listening. She hasn't said anything, but Noriko can tell by her breathing. Too shallow, too controlled. She lost someone too. Everyone in this room lost someone, and every one of those losses was built on propaganda. Hayes doesn't know about the cliffs, the suicides, the lies. He's asleep in his barracks, dreaming about Oklahoma, about a girl named Dorothy, about wheat fields and sunsets. He'll wake up tomorrow and count trays again. And these women will sit in that mess hall, eating better than they have in years, licking their fingers clean. Living with the truth, they're dead, never got to learn. Noriko squeezes Chieko's hand. Ashita mo taberu, sorega watashi tachi ni dekiru subete da. Tomorrow we eat again, that's all we can do. Outside, the Pacific wind rattles the barracks walls. Inside, 47 women carry 10,000 ghosts. Final meal. Same mess hall, same trays, same guard, but nothing is the same. Noriko finishes her rice, looks at her fingers. Grease glistens under the bare bulb, evidence of food, of survival, of choosing to live when everything told her not to. Namaruka, namararenaika. To lick or not to lick. 3 weeks ago, those words would have meant submission, violation, proof that the Americans had broken her. Now, they mean something else. She raises her fingers, opens her mouth, licks. Not because Hayes is watching, not because the clipboard demands it, because she chooses to. Hayes nods, makes his mark, closes the clipboard. Good job, he says. Same words, same tone. He'll say it again tomorrow to a different group. It means nothing to him. But to Noriko, those 2 words, translated by Takeshi, heard across a gulf of language and war, are proof. Proof that what she was told would kill her, kept her alive. Watashi wa teki ni tabarareru tu omota, karera wa watashi wa tabemono da yashinata. I thought the enemy would consume me. They fed me instead. 6 months later, Noriko works in a U.S. military hospital in Yokohama. Translator, bridge between worlds. She keeps a metal tray on her desk, dented, scratched. The same one she ate from that first night. 1,200 Japanese women POWs by war's end. 98% survived American custody. 0 documented assaults. More than half faced rejection when they returned home. The enemy treated them better than their own country. Setsuko never did lick her fingers. She washed them in the barracks basin every night until repatriation. When she returned to Japan, she wrote a letter to Noriko. Anata ga tadashikata. Demo watashi wa shitagainakata. Sorga watashi no ikiru hoho data. You were right, but I couldn't comply. That was my way of surviving. Both paths led to the same place, alive. Tomoko became a teacher. Chieko opened a clinic, treated everyone, especially Americans. Fumi never went home. She stayed in Okinawa, near the cliffs, near her family who would never speak to her again. She planted flowers there, every spring. 3 words nearly broke them. Yubi wo namero. Lick your fingers. But what those words meant, waste nothing, survive everything, became something no propaganda could touch. Noriko looks at the tray on her desk, 40 years later, still greasy in her memory. Sora wa shinjitsu no shukodata. It was proof of truth, that what we fear most is sometimes just a man with a clipboard doing his job.